Hello and welcome to Cinema 4D Lite Release 21. In this video I will show you an overview of the techniques used to create this sports channel logo reveal inside Cinema 4D Lite Release 21. We will construct the 3D model, add materials, lights and some animation, and finally import it in After Effects using Cineware. Initially, the basic logo design was done inside Adobe Illustrator. So let's begin by saving the vector art in a way that Cinema 4D can understand it. Go to File, Save As, go to the appropriate folder you want the artwork to reside, and when you're prompted for the Illustrator options, go to the version and select version 8. That's mandatory. Press OK, and that's just about it. Let's go to Cinema 4D Lite. Go to the File menu, Open Project, locate the file we just saved, and click Open. You will be given some options. Just make sure we have the same settings selected and press OK. And this will bring the splines inside of Cinema 4D. Now you can see here in the Object Manager we have this hierarchy, and if you click on the plus sign you can twirl it open. Now the first thing I'm going to do is select this and go down here where it says Position, double click, type 0, tab to go to the next, 0, and press Enter. And you can see that now the splines are a bit out of the center of our screen. Don't worry about it. Go to View and go to Frame Geometry, and it will center everything that exists in the scene. Now the next stage is to separate these into distinct objects. One is this border over here, the other one is the banner, and the third are these vertical stripes. So let's see how we're going to do that. Number one, let's break this hierarchy. Click and drag to make a multiple selection and select the two splines and drag them down. And when you release, you will see that now they don't belong, so to speak, to the null. I can select this and press backspace to delete it. And I'm trying to clean up my scene as I go so I don't have redundant elements. Now, if for any reason you want to navigate and see this from different angles, let's get this out of the way. These three buttons here, 1, 2, 3, are for panning. Click and drag on that icon will pan the camera. Click and drag on this will dolly in and out. And clicking and dragging on the third one will tumble the camera around. The other thing is that we've got this grid over here that indicates the floor of our world. So go to Filter, find the grid, and deactivate it. And everything is much cleaner now. The last thing I'm going to do is select these two splines by just dragging a rectangle over them. And you can go down here and let's make this bigger. So go to the size and type double click 10, tab 10, tab 10, and then press Enter or Apply, which is the same thing. And again, let's frame this, View, Frame Geometry, and now everything is here. The reason I made them 10 times larger is that it works better with the default values that Cinema 4D Lite provides us. Now let's go and break this apart. Let's see what spline 7 is. And it has both the border and the stripes. And path 8 is actually the banner. So double click on the name and let's name this banner. Press Enter. I'm going to move it up here and I'm going to hide it. And in order to hide it, in this particular case, you see these little dots here. Just click on the top one once and then twice, and it will hide it from the viewport. So it's still there, it's just that we can't see it, and it makes things easier for us. Now, I want to split this path into the border and into the stripes. And the easiest way to do this is to make a copy of it. So click and drag, and before you release the mouse, press Command or Control, and you'll see that plus sign. And when you release the mouse, it will create a copy of that spline. Now I'm going to temporarily deactivate this. I'm going to click on the check mark. With this path selected, let's go to the points mode. And what I'm going to do is delete what I don't want. So I'm going to get my selection tool. This is a live selection tool. And I'm going to click and drag and select 2 points up here. These two, I can select any points. And the points I'm selecting belong to the spline I want to delete. And then I'm going to say select connected, and it's going to select all the points that are connected to the existing selection. So select this and you can see all the points are selected. All I have to do now is press backspace on my keyboard, and those splines are going to disappear. So now what we're left with are the stripes. Double click here to change the name, stripes. So let's put this up. Let's make it invisible. Let's activate that path 7. And now all I have to do is just remove the stripes. So select this, and I can go and do it the opposite way. I'm going to select these 2 points again. Funny enough, select connected, and then I'm going to invert the selection. Select, invert, and again press backspace to delete. And this is the border. I am going to make one last spline. I'm going to select the border, drag it down, and before I release, I press and hold Command or Control to make it duplicate. And let me make the border invisible. This is the border copy. And I'm going to select this point this time, go to select connected, backspace, so we have the back inner. Excellent. So back inner, border, stripes, and banner. And now we have a good breakdown of our splines so that we can proceed to create the actual 3D model. It's a good idea to go and save the file. File, save project as, go to the appropriate folder and press save. Let's see what this looks like when it's rendered, when the computer calculates the lighting. Click on this button to render in the viewport. So press render and nothing happens. That is because by default, splines do not render. We are actually going to use the splines to generate geometry, and that geometry will be visible, renderable, so to speak. How do we do that? Well, in this case, we are going to use one of the generators. So if you click and hold this, you see we have a host of generators. The one we are going to use is the extrude generator. And as you can see, an extrude object, which is green color because it's a generator, has been created in the object manager. Now what I want to do is tell this extrude generator to create geometry from these splines. So I'm going to click and drag to select the splines, and I need to make them children of the extrude generator. So select any of them, move it on top of the name, and you will see the arrow is pointing downwards now, and release, and this will create an extrusion. Now what's happening here is that by default an extrude generator only extrudes the first of its children. But if we select the extrude generator and go to the attributes manager, which I'm going to bring a bit further up by dragging this horizontal line, this here is the attributes manager. And amongst other things, it allows us, by choosing the appropriate tab, to do all sorts of different things to whatever object is selected at any particular moment. Now if you go to the Object tab, these are tabs up here, and go down here where it says Hierarchical, and you click on this, this will then take into account all the children splines of the particular generator. Now this looks flat, like it's one object, but if I change my view, go to the display in the viewport and select any of the modes that have lines, now you will see that there is something here more than those flat surfaces. So let's make this a bit more interesting. Let's actually add some depth to it. First of all, if you select the extrude generator in the Object tab, you have the movement parameter, and this controls how deep the extrusion is going to be and in which direction. In this case, I'm actually going to only move it in the Z direction. I'm going to set this to 50 for now, but I can go and change it at any given moment. Now the other thing is I want to move certain things a bit to the front and certain things a bit to the back. But before I do this, I'm going to apply some general attributes that will apply to all these objects. Let's go to the Caps tab of the extrude generator, and this will allow us to add a few more details like rounding. And if you go to the size and click and drag here, you can see that we're adding some sort of rounding here, which will make it a bit more interesting. Now we are going to change this as we go on. Let's split all these different components into their own generators. With the extrude generator selected, and providing that the hierarchical is active, If I make this editable by going to this button over here, that's called Convert a Parametric Object into a Polygonal Object, what's going to happen is that this hierarchy that has changed slightly will provide us an extrude generator for each and every one of those children splines. So now I can say, okay, I want to select the banner, and I'm going to hover over that blue arrow, which is the Z axis. And I'm going to click and drag it to the front. Fantastic. So I'm adding a third dimension, hence 3D. And then I can go to this banner and go to the object and change the thickness. Let's make this 20. Great. And now I can move it a bit further to the front so it doesn't touch the back. Now if I want to see it from the side, just click and drag on the tumble and there you go. Now the next thing is go to the back inner and I'm going to push it the other way. So a bit further in. And do the same for the stripes. Select them and push them in. So we have these 3 levels. Now I want to make this even more interesting. And one thing that's apparent here is that these are too blocky. If I dolly in, you will see that we have a flat piece here and a flat piece here. And if I render this, because now it's renderable, you can sort of see these steps happening. If you want to increase the fidelity or the resolution of your polygon model, there's just 1 or 2 things you need to do. As far as these subdivisions are concerned, these are the responsibility of the spline itself. So to fix this, I'm going to go to my banner, untwirl it, so just click on the plus, select the banner spline, and in the Object tab, change the intermediate points from adaptive to subdivided. And just make sure that the maximum length here is something like 5. And now you can see all these subdivisions. The next thing we're going to do is apply the same thing to all the splines. But I want to do it in one go and not go and change this number in each spline separately. So I'm untwirling everything and I'm selecting the stripes. And I'm using my Command or Control key to click and add to my selection. So now all 3 splines are selected. And here is the parameter. Change it to subdivided and make this 5. And now we have this nice smooth subdivision on everything. The next thing I want to do is make sure that I have enough geometry on these front panels. This one, and this one. Because currently they're just one big polygon. It will become very useful later on when we do the deformations. In order to do that, I'm going to go and select this generator, Command or Control this, and this. So I'm adding to my selection. I'm going to go to the Caps tab because these are the caps. And right down here where it says Caps Type, I'm going to change from Engon, click on this, and I'm going to add a Delaunay triangulation. Delaunay or Delaunay, I'm not really sure. I hope it sounded posh anyway. So now we have enough geometry so that when we start doing all sorts of modifications to our model, it won't look bad. Let's go and add a bit more detail to this. And for now, I don't even need to see the lines anymore. I can just look at my model. Let's go and add a bit of an interesting rounding over here. So let's dolly in. Let's move this down. Good. And let's go and select our border. Now in the Caps tab, amongst other things, we have these presets. So I can go and click on this and load a preset. And for this particular one, I'm going to load this one. It looks fairly interesting. And I can change how big it's going to be. I can dolly out, and you can see now we have even more detail on our model. And I can go and add different types of bevel shapes over here. Let's go to our banner generator. Let's go to the load preset. And let's add this. Interesting. And let's make it a bit bigger. Fantastic. And I'm going to leave the stripes as they are, but I'm going to go to the back inner and load another preset. This one, let's make it like this and make it quite big. And now we have this double step, which adds a lot of interest to our model. Look at that. Fantastic. Now, how do we make this curved? Well, we are going to use deformers. And deformers live here. Click and hold, and these are the deformers we have. In this particular situation, I'm going to use the bend deformer. And I'm going to create a bend deformer. Let me go and twirl these closed because it becomes too busy in here. And what I need to do is make sure the bend deformer is a sibling, resides in the same hierarchy as the objects I want it to deform. So I'm dragging it between the banner null and the banner generator. I can always go and change the names here, so I can take this out because we have one more redundant element on top, the extrude. I'm going to get rid of that, double click on that and call this shield all. So now we have a parent, we have a deformer, and we have 4 generators. Let's go to this bend deformer and start playing around and see what happens. Let's go to the object tab, the strength parameter, and you can see that I can bend it sideways. I want to bend this backwards though. In order to do that, I need to rotate my bend deformer so it complies to what I'm trying to do. So just get your rotation tool, this one over here, and let's see what kind of rotations we need to do. I'm going to bring it this way by clicking and dragging on that little rotation band over here. I'm going to bring it this way, and I'm going to turn it 90 degrees. So once I've eyeballed approximately 90 degrees, you can go down here and you can see it's 86.7. Double click on this and make this the closest 90 degree. Excellent. And the next thing I need to do is hover over this blue band and bring it over here, and again go to the closest 90 degree, which is the B rotation, the banking. Nice. Now if I go from the top, you can see that now it's bending nicely, but it's stretching at the same time. That's because the bend deformer needs the keep y-axis length in order to preserve the volume of what we're doing. And one rule with deformers, which will make your lives much easier, is to actually try and make them conform to the shape of the object you are deforming. And from this view, if I start moving these numbers, you can see that I can make it thinner because my object is thinner. Excellent. And the next thing I need to do is make it a bit shorter like this. And finally, select the move tool, and I want to move it so it's beyond the center of my object. Now sometimes you will need to view your scene from a different perspective. So click on this 4th button here that will take you from the maximized view to the 4 views. Use your navigation tools to adjust whatever view you want to work in. And you can also click on the appropriate button to the right and maximize that particular view. That's how we navigate and how we change views. Now you can see that the center is here and my bend deformer is selected. Just hover over here until the green arrow highlights and pull it so that this is slightly over the edge. And now if I go back to my perspective view by minimizing the top and maximizing the perspective, I'm going to do one more click, I promise. Select the bend deformer and in the mode change from limited, which applies the deformation within the bounds of this purple box, to unlimited. And this will bend our shield all the way around. Now the bend is going to allow this shield to grab some reflections better than if it's flat. Now don't forget, let's go and save, file, save project. Now it's a good time to go and add the text. And the text now, we are actually going to create it inside Cinema 4D Lite. Go over here where we have all the splines and you'll find the text spline. And just click on that and create a text spline. With the text spline selected and the object tab selected, let's go here and type United and just click outside. Now I can go and say align middle, and I'm going to make it smaller. And you can see that it's in the object now. So I'm going to hover over the blue arrow and click and drag it a bit to the front. And of course you can go to the font and change typeface. Let's go and change the name to United so I know exactly which one it is. Now I'm going to add an extrude generator to it. But I'm going to do it in a different way. I'm going to press my Alt or Option key and I'm going to click on the extrude generator, and that just makes the extrude generator comply to the position of whatever was selected previously. It just makes things a bit tidier. Let's tumble around and see what's happening now. You can see it looks really good. Now if you select this, you can make it a bit deeper so it goes in the logo, and that's how I'm going to leave it for now. Now I'm going to make a copy of this. Let's name it, double click United, and I'm going to make a copy of this. So I'm closing all these so there's not too much clutter. I'm going to click and drag it down here, and then before I release my mouse, I'm going to press Command or Control to make a copy. Untwirl it, go here and type sports, and just click outside here. And now I'm going to take this, double click sports, and I'm going to move it up. I'm going to make it smaller, but this time I'm going to use my scale tool. Click on this, click and drag anywhere and make it smaller, and then use your move tool after you tumble around from an appropriate angle. Let's move this over here and a bit further up. And there you go. The model now is ready. Let's go and add some materials. Make sure you download the content libraries when prompted, and go to where it says Content Browser over here. Click on this, and you will see in the presets, and let me just bring this down so you can see more things. I'm going to go over here where it says Light, and we have materials. Double click on this, and we have all sorts of different materials. I'm going to go to the glossy folder, and what I want to do is grab this white one, bring it down here, and release. And I'm just going to make a few copies of this, so I'm not going to use any other material. Go back to the Object Manager, and I'm going to pull this down, untwirl it, so we have all our objects exposed. This is white. I'm going to make a copy of this, so click and drag, don't release the mouse, press Command or Control, release the mouse, double click, and we have the material editor, which I'm going to bring over here, and then I'm going to move the actual shield over here so we can see the Object Manager, the material editor, and the actual model. I'm going to double click here to change the name and call this black. Press enter, and of course I'm going to go to the color and go and make it darker. Fantastic. The next thing I'm going to do is make another copy, so click, drag, Command, release, double click on this. Let's call this orange, and of course make it orange, a yellowy orange. It's yellow. Anyway, now we can close the material editor, and let's move this over here and tumble it around so we can see everything. And let's go and apply the materials. It's a very straightforward process. Let's put the black, so click and drag it all the way to the stripes or any other object you want to apply it to, and just drop it on the object itself. Now the stripes are black. I'm going to do the same for the border. I'm going to do the same for the sports and the banner. Excellent. Now let's drop the white on the United extrude and the orange on the back inner. And we have our logo with materials. Now if I go and render this in the viewport, you will see that not all the reflections we just saw in the viewport, these ones here, are visible. And that's because there's nothing really to reflect. So what I'm going to do is open a scene that has some lights in it, and will actually make this really, really nice. I have a scene with an animated camera and some lights prepared, so in order to bring it in this project, go to File and Merge Project. It's called Lights and Camera, and press Open. And now you can see that we have these two new objects. Inside the crane, if I untwirl this, we have a camera, and I need to activate it. So just click on this little square. Oh, what happened? Well, if we go down here to our timeline and scrub, you will see that now we have some animation. And let's go and render this and see how it looks. Not bad. We have some really sleek reflections. Now there are a couple of things that are bothering me. Number one, we have this sort of weird noise over here. That's a result of something called Fong. So make sure that you can see all your objects. And this over here, the brown little tag, this one, and all these, control the smoothness of the object. So click on this, and with your Command or Control key pressed, just go and select all these. And the only thing you need to do in the Attributes Manager is turn off the Use Edge Breaks. And that will get rid of that little problem. The next thing is that I want it to be even shinier. So let's go and change some parameters in the materials. Double click on the white, go to the reflectance, and go to the roughness, and I'm going to set this to something much smaller, something like 5. And I'm going to click on this, make it 5, and press enter. Click on this, 5, and press enter. Let's close this and let's render one more time. And now I think this is perfect. And now let's go and import this project into After Effects. From inside After Effects, let's go and import the Cinema 4D project. Select Shield Logo Simplified 01, press open, and add it to your layer stack, just under this little marker I've put here, and I'm going to drag it to the right, approximately there. And you can see there are no reflections, and that's because if your layer is selected, you will see in the Cineware plugin that we're using the software renderer, which is actually optimized for speed, so we can see what's going on. There you go. So I can time it, nice. And assuming I'm happy with the timing, now I'm going to go put it over here and activate the actual final renderer. Give it a second, and there you go, in all its glory with the beautiful reflections. The only thing left to do is to do a RAM preview. And this concludes the 3D Sports logo tutorial created in Cinema 4D Lite Release 21. Thanks for watching.